I can.
That's right.
That's right.
We need a coherent philosophy, right? That requires a corresponding practice. Amilcar Cabral says one of the greatest weaknesses of the liberation struggle is a lack of ideology. And he said, whereas the struggle can have an ideology and philosophy and still fail, we have never seen a successful revolution or struggle without one.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you don't have the word, if the beginning is not the word, then confusion is the beginning. You see it, don't you?
Yes.
It's a word that gives you the vision. Leadership then begins with the word, a clear and correct vision of the world and the central problems and possibilities in the world. Again, leadership begins with the word, a clear and correct vision of the world and the central problems and possibility in the world. Our organization thus has put forth Kawaida, a communitarian African philosophy, as this vision of the world. Created in 1960s, it informed the conceptualization and practice of Kwanzaa and then Uzo Saba. It informed the Black Power movement, the Black Studies movement, the Black Arts movement, the Black United Front and Convention movement, the Independent School movement, the Afrocentric movement, the Ancient Egyptian Studies movement, the Million-Person March movements. And it now seeks to make a definitive and important contribution to the reparations movement. Kawaida's strength lies essentially first in its grounding in African culture, continental and diasporan, ancient and modern. Second, in its bringing forth always the best of what it means to be African and human in the fullest sense. See, a lot of times people just say anything is African. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Oh, you know the Africans do this. Where you hear this from, bro? What system is this in? You got to ask your people that. You can't just let people tell you anything is African. You got to have some proof of it. Don't you need proof? So don't try to fly away when you need to stay on the ground. There'll be time for that. The Oduifa tells us this, and I always like this. This is beautiful. And I think they wrote this for us. They said there will come a time when people will move through the air like birds. But not yet, black people.
Not yet.
Not yet, you know? There will come a time. And all the black people sitting there that like to meditate and imagine they can just, you know what I mean? There will come a time you can do that. But you have to clear the world so you can sit down in peace. So you can meditate in peace. So you won't be interrupted by a cowboy calling for your sons and daughters to kill people they don't even know and don't have a grudge against. Just for some personal and collective disorder they're suffering. They got the problem, not us.
That's right.
That's what we told them in Vietnam. And your sons and daughters are going to have to tell them that with regard to Iraq. And you have to get them ready for that. Not, oh, son, it's your choice. You make up your mind. No, you got to wrestle with your son and your daughter and do it in a principled way. Yes. That's what makes black people sometimes so afraid of their own children. They won't struggle gently with them. We've got to struggle. In the sacred text, people struggle with God.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said?
Say it again.
In the sacred text, the people struggle with God. Why is this going on, God? What's happening? Ramses at the Battle of Kadesh says to Ra, hey, why are you leaving me out here by myself? You see, haven't I practiced what I'm supposed to do? Haven't I honored you? Why leave me out here? What do you care for these other barbarians? People do that all the time. But if we just sit on, go on, son, go on, daughter, it's up to you. They don't have it yet. They need, you know how they get strong? By struggling with you, to identify themselves, to understand themselves, to borrow from you and then add something to what you've given them. So that makes them part you, part them. When your daughters and sons are totally different from you, you failed. I said when your daughters and sons are totally different from you, you fail. They can't be just like you. That would be a problem. That's cloning. African people ain't into that. But they must reflect the best of what you've taught them. Otherwise, something's missing. Second, we were talking about Kawaida versus grounding in African culture. Second is bringing forth the best of what it means to be African and human. And third, it's insistent that we dialogue constantly with African culture. Fourth is creation of Afrocentric dialogue around the critical issues that affect us. And five, it's practice of struggle, service, and institution building since the 60s. In fact, this month is our 37th year. And so we come, black people, we come here to this podium with some knowledge, some experience, and some understanding of leadership. Leadership is also, as I said, about principles. We constantly argue that no principles have united African people throughout the world African community like the Uzo Saba, the 7 principles of Kawaida. Not only do over 28 million Africans around the world raise these principles up as a fundamental focus and value system during the week of Kwanzaa, but also they serve as fundamental cultural grounding and value orientation for numerous kinds of groups throughout the world African community. Independent schools, rites of passage program, black student unions, economic cooperative, political caucuses, religious groups, community organization, youth groups, study groups, etc. They all borrow from, build on, and see the Uzo Saba as their fundamental value system and grounding. The Uzo Saba were also included in the Million Man March Day of Absence mission statement because they were embraced by the groups that formed the National Organizing Committee of the Million Man March Day of Absence as the common culture and value grounding on which we all stood and stand. So clearly, we must reaffirm the importance and value of the 7 principles, the Uzo Saba, in all that we do. And we must make them a part of the daily way we and our children walk and relate in the community and in the world. That's right. Central to the leadership is also program and practice that not only satisfies human need, but transform the people in the process. This calls for an attention to education. The leaders just can't be sharp, the people must be sharp. Now. The leadership can't just know, the people must know. In fact, the ancient Egyptians put so much emphasis on knowledge, they called human beings knowing beings, rekid, those who know. Now, I've always said this, just think about that. To call a person rekid is not only to indicate how important knowledge is to understanding ourselves, it is also to point to how important knowledge is in realizing our most expansive self. If you don't have knowledge, black people, all kinds of things happen. First of all, you're most likely going to be afraid of the world and afraid of the oppressor when you don't even have no reason to be. The next thing you're going to do is make a lot of mistakes you don't need to make. And if you knew, you wouldn't make those mistakes. True. Another thing is, you'll be vulnerable to the white man's interpretation of who you are now and who you are in history. That means he's going to undermine your identity, therefore your purpose and your direction.
That's right.
If he has a monopoly on who you are, and can actually impose his definition of what it means to be African in the world, The best you can do is buck dance and hope that you can get a little money while you're doing it.